Welcome all of my wonderful friends to this Friday the 13th Rotary Club. I am your honored and blessed and humbled past president, Sarah Johnson, and glad to be with you all today. I'm going to invite my friend Becky Dundley up to lead us in our invocation. And then Bill Jetter, be ready for the pledge and four-way test right after.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we want to thank you for all of the many blessings that have been bestowed upon us in this meeting. We also want to thank you for the opportunity we have to help and serve others. As we serve others, we know we serve you as well. We want to thank you for the food that has been provided for us and pray that it may help to nourish and strengthen our minds and bodies so we may continue to help those in need of our assistance. We want to ask a special blessing upon our national and local leaders that they may receive your guidance as they make crucial decisions for all of us and the world combined. We also ask for a blessing on our military and those that provide our safety and welfare, that they and their families may have your protection as they serve throughout the world in our various municipalities. We ask a special blessing for those Rotarians who are sick or otherwise afflicted, that they may heal quickly and be able to join us again. We are thankful for all of these favors and blessings, and we say these things in the name of your Son, our Lord and Savior, even Jesus Christ. Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the Rotarian moral guide, four-way test. 1,
Is it the truth?
2,
All concerned.
3,
To build goodwill and better friendships.
4,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
and
Thank you so much. And I am now bringing up Miss Jennifer Shepard to introduce all of our guests and visiting Rotarians.
Hey, everybody, I'm Jennifer Shepard, and I've got a few guests to welcome today. First, Joanne Brundage is Claudia's guest. Do you want to introduce her? You want to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. Can we listen just a little bit? Thank you.
This is my friend Joanne Brundage. She works with Realty One Group. Sorry, I should say that clearer, but she works especially with seniors, and that's our connect in this.
You're welcome. And then over here with a mouthful of food, we have Dr. Ty Vogel. He's a chiropractor and a dog person. So, you know, that's 2 wins right there. He's still chewing? Okay, he's still chewing. And then I think maybe with Sheila, we've got Tim Hibbs, who's with Blood Assurance. Thank you. We're really glad you're here. And just a quick note about the shoe drive. There's a flyer on every table. This is the last weekly meeting where we will be collecting shoes. If you still have that pile of shoes at home, which I know at least 2 or 3 of you have told me you do, it's sitting by your front door and it just has not made it out the front door yet. Get it to me or Ruane, Jennifer Ruane, or Susie by like no later than Tuesday. Monday would be better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And now I would love to turn the microphone over to our esteemed Susie Lindsay, who's doing our Happy Bucks. Susie?
All right, Happy Bucks. Oh, she's trying. She's my friend. It's okay. So to start Happy Bucks, I'm hoping I can make someone happy because we found some earpods, Beats earpods. If anybody lost them, let me know and I will give them to you if you can give me the secret password. Okay, so who's happy here for the weather? Oh, Curry, right. Yes, sir. What's good going on good for you?
Running for District 7. We're having an event for him at the dealership, Cadillac dealership, Monday night, 5:30 to 7. So anyone that would like to come, we'd be happy to see them there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what about it? Somebody else?
I'm happy.
Sarah, good.
All right. I have to announce a new addition to my family. Last Sunday, I adopted the sweetest little Italian greyhound I've ever seen. Her name is Zara, which means princess. Let's be honest, she's going to be spoiled rotten. That's just how it works. And she's a whole whopping 5 pounds of love. So just letting you know, that's my happy.
What a great happy. Sheila.
I'm just happy I didn't get green and sick going across the Drake Passage this last vacation.
Next, somebody else? Right.
I spoke to Jeff Brown today and he is well recovering, he says, and the PT people are very happy. He should be back in a couple of weeks, I hope. That's one. And then the second one was, I don't know, if about 6 months ago, I put some money in Happy Bucks for a kid that just qualified on carrier quals. I don't know if you remember that. So he's he's serving on the USS Abraham Lincoln now, and he's at the tip of the spear.
Great news. Thank you.
I want to second what Curry said for Tom Tunnicliffe and also Nancy Bailey, who's running in the 7th. So show up and show support. And then in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day, may the road rise to meet you, and may the sun and wind always be at your back, and may the rains fall gently on your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hands.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Ray.
So I'm happy because we've got such a big crowd. Yay! And I'm happy because we actually have some food left over, which is amazing because there are 54 people in this room right now, and I had 38 reservations. So thank you very much. But just remember that. Please RSVP. We're good today. Everybody's happy, but please RSVP. Thank you.
Thank you for the public service announcement. 55. Hey, Mike. All right, next guest. Anybody else happy? Happy Bucks? Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Susie. Miss Sybil, I'm going to have you come up and speak a little bit about our social coming up. She didn't know. I'm totally all about Spirit.
I don't know a lot about it either, except it's on March 28th, and it's at wonderful Bob Thompson's house. And food is to be determined, but we'll have some tasty treats. So Bob, what hours did we decide? Was it like 6 to 8 or 5 to 7? I don't know. 6 to 8 sounds good. He is the host. He has a beautiful home. So I hope you'll all come over for a while, have a snack and a drink, soft drink, wine, beer.
I'm going to reserve the right to keep my opinions to myself because soft drinks are not good for me, but the other is. So, water, yes. Julie, would you like to make the announcement? Okay, so anybody know what's going on, say April 17th? Ding, 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 ding. Raise your hand if you've signed up already. Raise your hand if you need to sign up. Thank you very much. If you're serving on a committee, if you're doing procurement, if you're doing any of our things, please go ahead and sign up so we can check your name off. This next week is the last week for signups because we're going to start putting the assignments on the table in 2 weeks. So there are sign-up sheets on the tables. There's a QR code to make it really easy just to scan it with your camera and sign up that way. Or if you need to phone a friend, you can come see Julie after. Julie, raise your hand. You can come see Julie after the meeting and she will sign you up. So thank you all so much. All right. And now I would like to welcome my dear friend Sheila Cleveland to come up to introduce our spotlight for today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to say that we're going to have blood assurance back at our blood drive this year at Pancake Day. Mr. Tim Hibbs, he's the account manager for them. And I also like you to know there is a flyer on your table. If you want to sign up for the blood drive, you just scan that QR code, and I hope to see good participation this year. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, I am the relatively new Williamson County account manager for Blood Assurance. I took over Williamson in November. And if you don't know, Blood Assurance is a 501c nonprofit community blood bank. We are the only blood supplier for Williamson Medical Center. And I do want you to hear that. We're the only blood supplier for them. We're the only blood supplier for HCA TriStar hospitals. And we are the primary blood supplier for the Vanderbilt Hospital System. We're actually the biggest blood supplier to hospitals in Tennessee. And there is a great need right now. Always during holidays, blood donations go down. And then we were followed by the ice storm where blood donations practically stopped. So we are still catching up from that. We have run dangerously low several days for our hospitals, and everything, wherever we collect, it always stays locally. We say give local, save local. So whatever community we're involved in, it's going to go to the hospital that supports that community. And here, of course, we'd be going to Williamson Medical Center for our drive, and also to Vanderbilt, because we, as I say, we're their primary supplier. So please, if you would, sign up on that QR code. We need you. And also, if you don't know, 16 years old and up can donate in Tennessee. If you're 16, your parent or guardian would need to sign a form. 17 and up can make their own decision. So if you have any young people in your life, if you'd please let them know that. It's very important, and every donation helps save 3 lives, and we hope you can all be lifesavers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And also, I just want to make a little personal little statement to everybody out here. A lot of you know I've had health issues over the years. It's happened. And if I had not had wonderful people stepping up to donate blood, I don't know what the response would have been on certain things. So I do encourage all of us to give blood if we can. If you can't give blood, and because that happens, if you know someone who can, that'll be at Pancake Day, please encourage them to sign up. That goes a long way towards helping people in our community and people you'll never meet. So thank you, Tim. Oh, Sheila said we also welcome walk-ups, so we'd love to have you. And by the way, they taught me last year that I had an iron deficiency. Who knew? But it won't be this year. I'll be there. So with that, I would like to bring Ashan up to introduce our wonderful guests for today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's an honor to introduce Commissioner Andy. He is the 39th Commissioner of Agriculture for our state. For you who do not know that, I have a very strong connection with agriculture because I studied agriculture and did masters in agriculture many, many years ago. And I did work with farmers for about 10 years in many countries before I switched my career. So I'm very excited to host you today. Commissioner Andy is been with the state as a state rep for 10 years before he became the commissioner. He's married to a lovely lady, Miss Early, and 7 children, and lives on a farm in Dresden in West Tennessee. And he said, keep it brief and I will talk the rest. So Mr. Andy, thank you very much for coming.
So I brought some gifts today for those who can pay attention to the presentation. I'm not gonna tell you what those are yet, but those are Pick Tennessee products. So those are products that are produced here in the state of Tennessee. But part of the reason why I'm here is that I was told that if I came and spoke, I would get a new Cadillac from Andrews Cadillac. So
We've all been waiting.
felt like it was worth the trip. So Andy Holt, Commissioner of Agriculture, and I like to oftentimes start by saying I'm literally like the least likely person in the world to be the Commissioner of Agriculture here in Tennessee. And there's a reason for that. I'm from a completely non-agricultural background, 100% non-ag. My parents still to this day don't really fully understand exactly what I do, and they don't exactly understand why I do it. I'll just be honest. So my parents, who are wonderful, wonderful people, when I was an elementary age child, were not the same people that they are today. They were not making some of the best decisions in life, especially with their financial decisions and some of their recreational decisions at that time. Education was not a priority in our home when I was a child. And as a result, I was a very much struggling reader when I entered into the second grade. But I had a wonderful teacher named Miss Parker who recognized that, and she structured a plan. And typically we talk about structured plans as something that's voluntary. In her mind, it was not voluntary. I was going to learn to read regardless. And so when other students went outside and went out for recess, I stayed inside and read and learned to read. And I cannot thank Miss Parker enough for that. But Miss Parker loved agriculture. She was from Virginia. She had a strong Southern accent. She was a beautiful, relatively young lady at that time. She loved agriculture, and she thought if she loved agriculture, by God, everybody should love agriculture. And so all of the books that we read were about agriculture. And as a kid who had never stepped foot on a farm, had never touched a cow, never smelled the wonderful aroma of money that a hog emits, I made a decision in second grade that I was going to farm because of her influence on my life. And I'm happy to report that that decision seems to have paid off. So live in Northwest Tennessee, have the opportunity to farm with my wife. And yes, that was not an incorrect number, 7 children. Sometimes I wonder how that happened, but you're all adults. And so we have these wide range of children from 6 to 18 years old. And the life that I never got to live as a child, my kids get to live every day. And it is quite a privilege and a luxury to be able to raise kids on a farm. So in the audience here, how many of you all were raised in an agricultural environment? Anybody? Okay, several of you. All right. Y'all keep your hands down. How many of you all weren't raised on a farm, but you had maybe parents that came from a farm background? Okay, so quite a few. One of the issues that we're dealing with right now in agriculture is that anybody know what the percentage of folks who are directly involved in agriculture, anybody know what a percentage of society is at this moment right now in the United States? So we said 2%. This Mr. Andrews, I guarantee he is very smart because he said 2%, and that is the figure that we've used for years. It's actually 1.3% right now in the United States. And so what we're seeing a very severe separation between folks who have a keen firsthand understanding of agriculture and those who now agriculture is a little bit more of a fairy tale because they don't have any direct exposure themselves. And that's certainly influencing a lot of things. And here I am, first generation producer, certainly had an influence on me, but I've been able to correct that. So let me just give you a little background. So currently right now, Commissioner, I have a deputy commissioner who lives down here in this area, Ryan King. I don't know if any of you all may be familiar with Ryan King. He's had a good run of career options. The latest thing that he did before coming to the department was he was a policy and director for the Tennessee Electric Cooperatives Association. But then we also have lots of other folks that work on our team. And so we have a a lot of different folks that serve a lot of different purposes at the Department of Agriculture. And if I went through each and every one of these folks and what their role was within the department, it might surprise you the depth of things that you do on a daily basis that we have a direct interaction with. Obviously, the regulation of food. Actually, man, I'm really talking about Mr. Andrews a lot, but as we were going through the line, and he was very carefully selecting very high protein, low carb options I saw. But as we were coming through, he said, yeah, we eat really well here. And I will agree, that was a great lunch. And that's something that really should be a uniting factor for all of us. I think agriculture is actually one of the very, very few nonpartisan issues that no matter what your politics are, no matter what your thoughts are on any other topic, food should be an area of agreement. And as the United States, we have arguably done the best job of any nation in the history of Earth in the creation and the production of food. Honestly, to the point now that food production is not our primary issue. Our primary issue is backing away from the amount of food that we typically have available to us as Americans. And that is something that cannot be said about a lot of places throughout human history, where throughout human history, the biggest issue on most people's mind was, what am I going to feed myself and what am I going to feed my offspring today? There's an old adage that says, if you're hungry, you only have one problem. If you're full, you have 100 problems. And thankfully, because we have done a great job in agriculture, not just Tennessee, but agriculture as a whole, nowadays, our concerns are not primarily focused on where's our food coming from. Now, when your food is in abundance, it's a lot easier to be very critical of the food that you have available. And we're seeing that in society as well right now. And so hopefully we're going to reserve some time for the end so that we can have some conversation, but be interested in hearing what your thoughts are about food. But let me run through these folks real quick. So Ryan King, as I said, our deputy commissioner. Logan Hess covers policy and legislation for us. Heather Slayton is our state forester. Dr. Beatty is our state veterinarian. Dr. Travis is our Consumer and Industry Services Assistant Commissioner. He covers all the regulatory activities for the department, which are numerous. Matthew Wade in Business Development, Liz Sneed with HR, because everybody's got to have people. And then also Maria Ramsey, who covers public affairs for us. I have a great team, and I'd love for you all to interact with them at any point if they could ever be of assistance to you. So our mission as a Department of Agriculture is to serve, support, and promote Tennessee agriculture and forestry. And when we talk about agriculture in the Department of Agriculture, I always talk about ag and forestry as like two sort of, almost like inseparable sisters. It's hard to talk about one without directly talking about the other. But when you look even at our state seal here that's recognized, 230 years ago, some folks got together and had a vision about an opportunity to create a new state that they wanted to call Tennessee. And they enshrined our seal with two words, agriculture and commerce. And now 230 years later, you know what? They were right. And 230 years ago, when the settling of our state was really taking place, the reason why they thought, hey, this is going to be a great place for agriculture is because of the fertility and also the copious amount of soil reserves that we had across the state of Tennessee. So whether it's in the Delta over toward West Tennessee where I live, back up toward, especially in the South Middle Tennessee, we have a lot of really, really productive ground down there. You get up onto the plateau, not as much agricultural grounds, but certainly great access to a lot of timber. And then over into East Tennessee and the rolling hills over there, lots and lots of pasture land. And they knew that that was going to be a strategic advantage for us as a state. From the commerce perspective, what they were seeing was the ability to take those agricultural goods and transition those into an item of commerce because of the voluminous amount of riverways that we had in the state of Tennessee. And now, 230 years later, not only do we still have those rivers that we use every day to ship agriculture goods, but we've also got interstate systems, railways, and we also have some of the most expansive commercial air traffic in the world that happens in Tennessee as well. And all of those things bode very well for agriculture and for commerce. So when we look at kind of the overview of agricultural products that we produce in the state, so we can break it down into three categories pretty easily, pretty quickly: livestock, plant-based agriculture, and forestry. So for livestock, so right now we are in a great place, great position as agriculture with livestock production. So obviously we had some protein items today that were supplied to us by livestock animals here in the United States. So for us as a state, we're enormous producers of cattle. Now, we don't finish a lot of cattle in the state of Tennessee, but we're cow-calf producers. So there's several tens of thousands of cows across the state of Tennessee that are producing calves. And on an annual basis, those cows are having those calves. And then we sell those calves into the market. They typically go into the Midwest and they're raised, what we call background or stockered, and then they're finished. And that's mostly done in the West. Well, right now, some of the prices that we're seeing on cattle are the highest that we've ever seen in recorded history. So I did the market news report this morning, and a heifer calf, a female calf that's weighing between 400 and 500 pounds right now is ranging $4.80 per pound to $5.70 per pound. That's an amazing amount. Now, granted, the input costs that go into that are surprisingly high as well, but for right now, we're certainly doing well in the livestock sector. Another issue that may kind of surprise you is the amount of poultry that we produce here in the state of Tennessee as well. Actually, Avogen, one of the input supply companies, genetic input supply companies, that's here in the state of Tennessee, between a location here and a location in Germany and one that they have in Ireland, they actually produce about 90% of the world's poultry genetics between those three locations. And so poultry is big business for us here in the state of Tennessee. And then we also produce a lot of swine in Northwest Tennessee. But what we can see is that livestock is certainly a growing segment for us, and dairy production is also one that's been pretty stable. What we're seeing is that we're seeing fewer farms, but more farms with larger numbers of cows. So just what we would basically call consolidation. And I'm sure that's probably not hard for you to imagine. All right, so for forest products. So one of the most amazing things about Tennessee is that 52% of our land mass is actually covered right now in forestry. So 52%, 13.9 million, almost 14 million acres of the state of Tennessee is covered in some type of either deciduous or coniferous forested material. And that actually puts us as being the third highest exporting state in the nation, which really makes us probably the third highest export destination in the world for hardwood fiber. So a lot of us are probably, when you just think about your childhood, think about either, can you think of a tree from your yard or from your parents' yard that as a child, or maybe your grandparents, a tree that, like, if you really get to thinking about it, you think, yeah, I remember that tree. Most of us who grew up in the South are probably believing, hey, everybody grew up like that. Everybody had a big swing in their tree or a tire swing or wherever else. And the fact is that's just really not true, whether that be in the United States or in many places around the world. So the quality of the hardwood that we're producing is second to none. And also the volume of hardwood that we're producing, second to none. And also, especially the sustainability. So the silvicultural practices, the forestry practices that we employ here in the state of Tennessee is that we cut trees, and we should be in the business of cutting trees. We absolutely have to cut trees, because if we don't cut trees, you know what happens? The same thing that's happening in California right now. You're either going to cut it and bring value into the market from that tree, or that tree is going to die and decay, and it will eventually catch on fire and it will burn up. And so the silvicultural methods that we have don't require us really to actually plant trees back in most cases. Now, in some cases we do, but for the most part, we're a naturally forested state. And it's been a good thing for us. And throughout our history, we're producing more wood right now than we ever have before, because we're consuming less of that wood. For every one tree we're cutting on an annual basis, or one unit of forested material we're taking out, we're growing 3 at this current moment right now. So if anybody has any concerns about forestry, I promise you, we're doing really, really well. And that's the best way for us to capture carbon, in my opinion, is through a productive, healthy, sustainable forest system. All right, for row crops, certainly a less than perfect scenario right now. So row crops are really, if you're hearing anybody talking about agriculture right now, the agriculture markets are in a very tough position. I think I've got some slides that will give us an exact kind of view of how tough it is. But whether it's corn, soy, cotton, or wheat, those four commodities right now, which we would consider to be our classic row crops, are all trading at perceivably a loss. Not just a low margin of profit, but in many cases, an actual loss. And a lot of folks ask, and we get this question a lot, why are we in the situation that we're in right now? It must be tariffs. It must be, high input prices. It must be, global trading partners. And the answer to that is yes, it's pretty much all of those things. So agricultural commodities can be grown almost anywhere. They've been grown in a lot of different places by a lot of different people. But traditionally, throughout the last really 100 to 150 years, the United States has been the breadbasket of the Western Hemisphere. So we have produced more crops than what's necessary to feed our population in the United States. We've been a surplus supplier of row crops into the global market. Now, for the Eastern Hemisphere's breadbasket has for 100 plus years really been Ukraine. And so what we saw was during the Russian-Ukraine conflict that we saw begin a couple of years ago, it really disrupted the global trade of commodities in a way that I think a lot of us were recognizing there's going to be some change sort of on an ongoing basis from this point forward. And we've certainly seen that sustained change. So when that global conflict took place and the prices of commodities responded by going up, it actually exacerbated an issue that had already begun, but that was the production of crops in very, very large volumes in Brazil and Argentina and South America. And so because there was a profit potential opportunity, Brazil and Argentina really started to send their crop production into high gear to try to meet that global demand that was not going to be present because Ukraine had basically been taken out of its production capability for nearly a full year and in some cases 2 years. And so when that vacuum was filled by crop that was produced in Brazil and Argentina, it flooded the market. It flooded the market globally. And then when Ukraine came back on with their crops and with other crops that they traditionally grow, what that did is it really flooded the market with large volumes of commodities. And so we're still dealing with that large surplus amount of commodity that's present in the global marketplace right now. And as a result, prices are down, input prices are high. As a result of the conflict that we've seen in Iran over the last couple of weeks, we've seen fertilizer prices jump at an astronomical amount. And so really what I'm trying to get across is that when we talk about agriculture production, it's not just your local farm. It's literally, as the old saying goes, what does that have to do with the price of rice in China? Well, actually, the price of rice in China does have an impact on the price of rice here at home. And so our commodities are suffering right now. And this is a business that I think a lot of folks may kind of falsely assume, yeah, it's just farming, it's just, they just get out there on their tractor and, plant a couple of rows. Well, we're talking about operations now that the average operation that's a row crop operation in the state of Tennessee, 2,700 acres. All right. If you're sustaining a loss on a per acre basis, multiply that by 2,700. That doesn't help you achieve any economies of scale. It kind of helps you get to bankruptcy a little bit quicker. And so what we're trying to do is trying to help producers in every way that we possibly can by creating new opportunities to use crops domestically, but also to explore new opportunities to market crops globally. All right. I've already talked about a lot of these challenges, but these are some of the specific challenges that are facing specifically row crop operators at this time. And then you can see as I've coined it, commodity chaos. What we see is lots and lots of red on the commodity boards right now. And so these, again, are impacts that are directly impacting Tennessee producers in the row crop environment at this time. And these are the 2025 estimated amounts of revenue and production cost. And you can see this line across the bottom right here. So if you were to raise an acre of cotton in 2025 based on these parameters, you're going to lose $409 per acre. All right. So, okay, well, we don't want to plant cotton. All right. Soybeans, a loss of $184 an acre. Well, probably don't want to do that. Corn, a loss of $195 an acre. Wheat and soy combo, $203 an acre. And that sounds like I'm giving you the most dismal message in the world. And oh my goodness, how is agriculture going to keep going? Well, they find a way. We find a way. Part of this is that these are assumptions based on what the cost of capital is, what the cost of fertilizer would be, what the cost of the land rent might be, or paying that farmer themselves for the use of their own land. There's a way to squeeze out a reduced amount of loss in these numbers, but generally speaking right now, times are tough. So when you hear folks talk about the agriculture environment being in a tough position financially, this is the reason why they're really talking about that and the basis upon which those statements that they're making are true. So when we look at the total gravity of this loss, what we see is that, and this is after, oh, I'm in the way. This is after, so the total cumulative loss for these four crops, cotton, soy, corn, wheat, and soy, when we see what the total loss in 2025 was, it was $476 million worth of loss to Tennessee producers alone. That's not the United States. That's Tennessee producers alone. And then what we see is that after all of the federal subsidies that were supplied to producers, there was a cumulative loss of $192 million an acre. Excuse me, $192 million for the state on all that production. And so I'm trying not to be pessimistic, but I do want to let folks know that when folks talk about agriculture currently being in a slump, it's a significant slump. The livestock markets, again, doing relatively well. The lumber markets and global trade on hardwood, not great, but still profitable at a small margin. The row crop business right now is very, very difficult. And there's a lot of folks saying, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to combat this? And the issue is that there's no silver bullet. There's no single silver bullet. These prices can change in an instant. You know, in times past, we would get USDA market news reports or quarterly reports or annual updates. Now, all it takes is an X post. And all of a sudden, we see the commodity markets go up the limit, go down the limit in response to political narratives that are being cast out in the open these days. There's no silver bullet, but we are working on ways to diversify the use of these commodities. And the market is always the best way to measure what's going to happen in the future. There will be producers who go out of business this year who say, you know what, farming is not worth it right now. And what does that do? That reduces the volume of crop that's available in the market. And we're going to see that happen. That'll create low prices. That'll create high prices. That's the nature of commodities. So we're working through this. Again, I wish I had better news to report. All right. So one of the ways that we're trying to combat the issue is by trying to find out exactly what producers want done on their behalf. And so I go a lot. I'm on the road a lot. I've only been commissioner since October of this last year. Prior to that was one of your own Williamson County folks. It was Commissioner Charlie Hatcher. Great guy. I worked for Commissioner Hatcher for 6 years prior to becoming commissioner. But we're on the road and we're trying to figure out what is it that producers, what are their ideas about how we should react? Again, our mission as a department, serve, support, and promote Tennessee agriculture and forestry. It's hard to go out, serve, support, and promote a group of individuals if you don't hear from them directly. So we're in the process of going out, hearing from them all across the state right now. One of the solutions that I particularly love is this opportunity for us to pursue additional markets for crops, livestock, genetics, forest products around the world. So right now we're ranked 22nd of all the 50 United States in the amount of exports that we're delivering into the global market. My goal, and I've been in 9 different countries in the last 18 months, a couple of those countries multiple times, marketing Tennessee production. And so whether it's hardwood, whether it's ethanol, whether it's feeds and grain byproducts, prepackaged foods, seems like the world's most favorite product that we put out, and distilled spirits. A lot of those things are options that we have here in the United States, and we have a path that over the next 5 years, we're going to move ourselves from the 22nd most exporting state to within the top 10. That's my goal as commissioner. So when you look at, well, what are the things that we have available to export here in Tennessee? We are actually a mecca of food and agricultural products here in the state of Tennessee. Again, as the founders of our state 230 years ago said, you know what, we bet agriculture is going to be really successful here. It has been. So if you don't hear anything else that I say today, listen to this. When you combine agriculture and forestry, and we combine those and we symbolize those as a single industry, but when you bring those two groups together, we're the largest industry sector in the state of Tennessee. $103.8 billion is the economic opportunity that's created by agriculture and forestry in the state of Tennessee. The next largest industry, as you may know what the next largest industry in the state is? Tourism. Yeah. So tourism. And if you say tourism's worth $32 billion, not my numbers, Haslam School of Business numbers, they took all of the economic activity from 2025 in the state of Tennessee, divided it up and allocated it to an industry. Agriculture and forestry, $103.8 billion with a B, boy. And then tourism, $32 billion after that. So advance that second largest industry by 3 times, and you're still only at $96 billion. Agriculture is an enormous economic driver for us here in the state of Tennessee. And you can see all these various products that we produce. We produce a lot of different things here in the state of Tennessee, something that we should be very proud of. All right, so international marketing, I've already talked about it. One of my most frequented countries is actually Vietnam. I've been to Vietnam 3 times in the last 18 months. I've been to India 4 times in the last 18 months. And we are all around the world selling, especially hardwood right now, it seems like, especially those countries that are demanding hardwood products, not hardwood products, hardwood lumber, so that they can make products and actually send those back to us in the United States and into Europe. So we have done a lot of trade missions in 2024, but really what I want you to see for the sake of time is look at our investment cost. So in 2024, our cost was $42,624. What we saw was initial product sales of just over 100,000. This is the year that I really began leaning into international trade. Fast forward to 2025, $19,858 worth of input, sales of over $612,000. So this is the path for us. When we look at those terrible, awful red marks all over the commodity markets, this is going to be one of our paths forward, is seeking out new international markets. And how many of you all have been out of the United States anytime in the last 12 months? So a lot. Okay, we got a lot of globetrotters in here. That's great. In my experience, in those 9 different countries that I've been in the last several months, you know, one of the things that not everybody loves our politics, we understand that, but almost everywhere I've been, people look at the United States and say, you know what? The production that comes from the United States is the best. We are still viewed as the leader of the free world, and our products are as well. And when we think about products that we consume on a daily basis, if we love those products, if you love a skin remedy, if you love a drink, if you love an item of clothing, if you love a favorite, whatever it is, guess what? The rest of the world probably views that as a premium product as well, and they want that. And so I'm a big believer in us making sure that we're available to market goods internationally, but I also believe that we should be trying to focus on new ways, new innovative ways to add value to current existing production here in the United States as well. So these are our exports by commodity right here. And what you can see is that over the last couple of years, and specifically, so if we look from this change from 2024 to 2025, we saw an enormous amount of change. And this is mostly a result of one country. I thought I had that next slide in there, and it's China. So China basically sat out of the agriculture environment in trade in 2025 to the tune of $68 billion worth of products that they opted not to purchase from the United States, and they decided to purchase from other nations, and specifically from the row crop standpoint from Brazil and Argentina. So, all right, we are, unfortunately, not only are we the third most hardwood producing state in the nation, but and that's a good third. This is a bad third. We are the third worst state in the nation on converting agriculture and forest land to non-ag, non-forest use. You all that live in Williamson County have seen this. If you've lived here more than 10 years, you've certainly seen the transition. One of the ways that we think the best way to keep agriculture and forestry land is to make it profitable. That's the number one way. If it's profitable, it can maintain itself in the market. The second best way that we found is to celebrate it, to celebrate farms. Does anybody in here by any chance live on a Century farm? Okay, got one, but don't live on it. All right. So this is something that I certainly always want to try to advocate for, is that if you know of folks that you think, maybe we live on a Century farm, it's been in your family for 100 years, it's been in continuous agriculture operation for 100 years. We have 2,300 of these farms across the state of Tennessee. We want to help you celebrate that. We also have a brand new land preservation program that Governor Lee funded in this last General Assembly that he put $25 million in. $25 million is not going to go a long way, but it's the purchase of development easement rights so that that farm can stay perpetually preserved from development. I have mixed feelings on that. I don't think that anything's ever really forever other than salvation and love for my wife. But there is certainly some element to this desire to preserve land. And we think these are a couple of the tools that we can keep agriculture and forest land in ag and forestry. And then one of the last slides here, I believe, is the fact that we have some agriculture specific criminal activities that sometimes take place on farms. And we have within the Department of Agriculture our own ag crime unit. And so if you're ever impacted, any of those of you who live on a farm ever impacted with any criminality, please reach out to the Department of Agriculture, whether it's arson, theft, livestock running it loose, things of that nature. We're here to help. All right. Again, we're here to serve, support, and promote. So I think that brings us to Pick Tennessee Products. And I'm going to talk about this program real quick, and I'm going to quiz you all with some statistics, and I'm going to let you all win some of these prizes. But last thing, so Pick Tennessee Products is a great program. We have producers from all over the state of Tennessee that are local artisans or producers of products. What I really encourage people to do is think about when you need to buy a gift for your sister, okay? Or you need to buy a little gift for the folks that work in your office. Or it's Christmas time and you're like, hey, what's something that could be really like thoughtful and special? Well, welcome Pick Tennessee Products. I would certainly encourage y'all to look at the website. You can look that up right now. And there's a lot of local producers, especially in this region right here. And I will give you a sampling. If you were paying attention to my presentation today, I'll give you an option to win some of those prizes. But anybody have any questions? We've got about 7 minutes.
Two questions. One is that what percent of our land in Tennessee is dedicated to agriculture?
38%.
38%. Okay.
38% to agriculture, 52% to forestry, and the balance is developed or municipal lands.
Got it. Okay. And the numbers that you gave for row crops, what we were experiencing here in Tennessee, is that nationwide or is it just Tennessee?
So this last year, great questions, actually. This last year, 2025, was kind of a double whammy for us in Tennessee. So we had a really great early season to plant in 2025. We got about 30% of the crop out. Then it started raining. We started having some really bad floods. And once all that rain got finished, it didn't rain again until into September. And so we got a little bit of crop planted, then it got drowned, and then it got droughted. And so we had two things. We had market pressure from low prices, and then we had low productivity as a result of the flooding and then the drought. The low prices obviously are applicable to most production across the United States, but in most years, even with low crop prices, with high volumes of production, you can get into a profitable status. But yes, for us last year, it was regionally depressed beyond what the regular was for the nation. Yes, sir.
Yes. Food is important. Think about it 3 times a day, every day.
Yes.
What you mentioned, I really appreciate all the information you did about the supply and whatnot. My concern is the actual quality of the food being produced. What I mean is soil, what it's being grown in, the pesticides over the years and years of where the quality of the food probably isn't as good as it was when we were children. My question would be, does the state or does your department, is that a concern, number one? Number two, I'm sure it probably is. Are there measures being taken to address even what the cows eat, where the grass is growing, that kind of thing? Is there something being done on the soil here in Tennessee as far as that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm a subscriber to a theory called cathedral thinking. Are you familiar with cathedral thinking? It's this idea that we need to be thinking about, like, when you built a cathedral, it took 200 years. So those who started it weren't the ones who finished it. They literally planted oak trees and said, hey, one day these oak trees are going to be big enough in 200 years, they're going to be able to roof this cathedral. And so for me, and I think for the vast majority of producers in agriculture, our cathedral is not a building, it's soil. And so the principles of no-till soil usage or no-till planting actually developed from Milan, Tennessee and West Tennessee. You're familiar with no-till? So no-till is a principle that says we shouldn't break the soil up because there's a biome that actually there's a whole nother world that exists under that soil. And so one of the pieces that goes along with no-till production is, and I think you're kind of alluding to it, is that we are dependent on the use of pesticides in many cases to kill down the competition of the other plants, because tillage was always the way that we eliminated competition. So we would plant a crop and then we would till right up beside that crop and we would reduce the competition of that corn crop, because there's going to be Johnson grass, there's going to be henbit, there's going to be other things that are going to grow and compete with that crop. And so the balance is, do we want to continue losing massive amounts of topsoil, or do we want to adopt these no-till principles and then apply, in many cases, crop inputs that will create that balance that we need? It's not tillage, but it is in many cases things like glyphosate. And so, is it a concern? It's certainly a concern. We need to be thinking about it. We need to be thinking about, are there better methods? Are there better chemistries? Are there better, things that we can do? As a general rule, though, I do not think that the quality of the food that we're producing is any less nutritious or any less nutrient dense or any more unsafe than food from times past. But I think there's a lot more concern in the market and a lot more addressing that concern than we've ever seen before. And that, I don't dispel those things. I think that things that we need to continue to talk about, but we've got to balance. Do we want to lose soil, or do we want to have, exposure to potentially some of these crop input that in some cases do show up in parts per billion, parts per million in our food? I think it's unwise for us to focus solely, though, on those crop inputs when there's a lot of other areas that we're consuming chemicals that we weren't when you and I were kids. So if we're going to look at one chemistry that's of concern, we probably should look at all of the chemistries that are of concern and really see at the root of it, where is the concern really? Where should that be rooted? All right, a couple of questions.
How has the federal ramped up tariff program impacted Tennessee agricultural and forestry?
So that's an answer that would take about 2 hours for me to answer. So tariffs are really, there are 3 things, in my opinion. And as a studier of economics and a person who loves economics, so tariffs are an economic weapon. Okay, they are a way for us to exhibit dominance in the market. Okay. President Trump certainly feels like that is one of the ways that he can use tariffs. It's also a revenue generator. So it also creates opportunity for us as a nation to generate revenue off of the international exchanges And we have certainly seen that. $298 billion from 2025 is what the tariffs brought into the Treasury. And then the last of the, I think, the kind of basic things that tariffs provide is it provides a hometown or home country advantage. So when we say we're going to tariff a good from India at 15%, well, what does that functionally do? That gives a producer in the United States a 15% advantage over that product that would otherwise come from India. And so tariffs at their onset, people typically look at them and say, we shouldn't use them. They have no value. Well, they have three different sources of value, actually. Has it impacted Tennessee production? It certainly has. To what degree? I think it'd be hard for us to segment out and say, this is the impact of tariffs alone. All right, I'm going to ask you all some questions now. What is the value of agriculture in the state of Tennessee in 2025? $103.8 billion. All right. What do you want? Okay. Well, there you go.
Who am I going to?
So right here, Kip. All right. What are one of the top commodities that we produce and we market globally in the state of Tennessee? Beans. Oh, hey, I'm going to go ladies first. Okay. What was it? Cotton is one of those. That's exactly right. All right. What are one of the four crops that we're currently experiencing a lot of economic hardship with? Okay, cotton wins 2 answers. All right. And who is the best looking commissioner of agriculture in Tennessee? I'm going to give it to the guy in the back. All right. Last gift. So I'm going to give it to the Irishman over there because I thought his words were wise. So, all right. Thank you all very much. If I can ever be of assistance, Andy Holt, I'm easy to find.
Thank you, Andy, so much for being here and educating us all. I think we all learned a lot. I never realized how big agriculture was in Tennessee. I want to remind everybody that we're gonna take the chairs and stack them, if you can, to stay and help with that. And also make sure you RSVP for next week's Rotary meeting. We would love to have you, and thank you all so much for letting me be your moderator. I hope you have a wonderful week. Oh, yes. Oh, sorry, Andy, I need you.